Unspoken Issues.
We are going to be talking about the Marvel Holiday Special from 1996. Dean, you are the one that came up with these. We had quite a few Marvel holidays in the 90s that we could have picked from.
Well,
why this one?
There's a holiday every year in the 90s, Jesse.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. Do you know how many holidays there are every year? Hundreds of
I didn't know this.
Hundreds.
I had no clue.
No, I don't know when they stop. I don't know if they stopped doing the holiday specials in the later years, but you're right. One of my first comics actually was, I want to say, the 91 special that Art Adams did the cover on, just a really good one. So yeah, there were lots to pick from. I picked this one because I thought that Two Gun Kid was in it, but it's Rawhide Kid. And, I hadn't read it before. So I tend to like this kind of sappy stuff, but Emily's already written about a couple of the earlier holiday specials on the page. So I was like, let's do something I haven't read. I had read this, and I thought, I love Two Gun Kid. This is Rawhide Kid, and I still liked it. So that was it. Spider-Man and the X-Men are going to be in it because, man, they're going to be in everything. It's 1996.
Yes, indeed. I was just looking at what was on the shelf in 96 at the time in December, and we are coming off of Onslaught at that point.
Oh, yeah.
The one book that really stood out to me that was on the shelf was the epilogue. I remember the epilogue with Professor Xavier's face, and of course it's overshadowed by Onslaught's helmet.
I can't remember. Don't they put him in super jail at the end of that or something?
It's been a while since I read it, so I don't remember.
Who, Professor X?
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor X is supposedly depowered, and he's arrested by the government.
Val Cooper, right?
Yeah, but the big reveal is that Wide Awake has become Project Zero Tolerance. That's headed by Bastion, who will be revealed to be Nimrod in some way. So that's the plot, but he very quickly comes back during the next reboot. I mean, there's no real follow-up. The follow-up is Over the Heroes Reborn.
I just thought I could remember Val Cooper escorting him somewhere.
That would make sense because I don't think they had invented any of the Zero Tolerance guys yet. That was the big crossover for the following summer. But they were like, someone's got to get arrested for all the damage caused and all the superheroes you seem to have murdered, and you're coming along willingly, so we'll take you for now.
If Jim Shooter had been editor-in-chief, he'd be like, that's not good enough. You gotta kill him. Kill him.
Jim Shooter is responsible for Secret Wars 2, which I feel confident saying, even though I haven't read every comic book ever made, is the worst comic book ever made.
Well, that's absolutely untrue.
Yeah, probably.
That's absolutely untrue.
It's
kind of like when somebody says, who's the worst wrestler of all time? I don't know. We've probably never seen him. They wrestled twice in Locust Grove, Arkansas. I've read all of Secret Wars 2. I have read every tie-in issue of Secret Wars 2. You're right. It's not good. There are some fun moments. I've read lots worse comics than Secret Wars 2. You know?
It did introduce Boom Boom, who would go on to be a Next Wave. So
right. And Peter Parker taught the Beyonder how to take a dump.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
That is a thing that happened in that book. That happened in that book.
Darry, I mean, do you have
Marvel?
Darry, do you have any affection? Do you have any feelings for the holiday specials at all? Do you ever pick any up?
No. Whenever I saw one of these holiday specials, I was like, I know nothing important is going to happen in that. They were always higher priced. I don't really go in for the sappy stuff, so I skip them. Sometimes we would just get them because it'd be like, oh, cool, Santa Claus is on the cover. This probably doesn't have a bunch of people getting murdered. Here you go. But no, I always skip them. I remember seeing this one on the stands, but in 96, I was buying everything I could get my hands on, so I was like, this probably isn't worth the money. But I enjoyed it. I read it for the first time at Dean's recommendation, and it took me back. By 96, I had my own pull list, and I was getting books every week. I remember these designs, the art style. It was a good thing to read around Christmas because it definitely took me back to an earlier time.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, too. Anytime I saw a special like this or something along those lines, I had the same feelings. I was like, this isn't going to matter in any way. So why would I want to read it? And
sometimes things that matter did happen in them, but not like super matter. If you're a Thanos fan, one of them, there's this really good story about him raising Gamora and celebrating a Christmas thing. And does it change anything? No, but if you're a fan, this is I'm a mark. I'm a Thanos mark. So
there's a moment.
I'm glad I read that because it opened things up in a different way. Dave Cockrum penciled one of these things I think in the 91 special. If you're an X-Men, Mark, anytime you can, this is one of the last times Dave Cockrum did X-Men. So you're going to want to get on top of that. As far as continuity shattering stuff, no, nothing ever happened. I think that this is going to be one of those rare things, especially at this time, that they were going to get a lot of newsstand sales with these. We're not really going to do hot in the direct market for the reasons y'all are saying. Direct market people are going to be like, I don't know, this isn't part of Onslaught crossover, part 33. I don't know if I'm going to get that. On the other hand, grandma sees this. It's $3.95. It's real thick. Hey, get this, roll it up, put it in a stocking.
Yep. I would also like to point out that pretty much every opinion I had in 1996 proved to be wrong. So I am not defending the way I felt then.
Yeah, same, man. I did not know much in 1996.
I did not.
As it turns out, as a young man who turned 17, I did not have as many things figured out as I was convinced.
Surprise, folks.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I mentioned this to you guys before we started recording, but there is a Stan Lee story in this book, and it's not mentioned on the cover or anything like that, and it's Stan writing the Silver Surfer of all freaking things, and I thought it was a great story. I thought it was a genuinely great, please reprint this with the stuff he did with Jack and the stuff he did with John Buscema. So again, I missed that. It's been however many years since 1996, and I had never come across that before now. So yeah, there are definitely gems in this thing.
I think another thing to keep in mind about the book is that, look, there's a Rawhide Kid story in here. That's in here for two reasons, right? Number one, an easy way to protect the trademark. You can put the Rawhide Kid in here, give him an 8-page story, whatever. But also, if you do it well, maybe there's a little interest. You get a few letters, you get a couple emails, you get a couple phone calls. Hey, I like that Rawhide Kid. Maybe there's a mini-series coming up. And there is in like 2000. And Two Gun Kid had a 2-issue mini-series around the same time. But maybe you can put a character in there. Is there a path where Kitty Pryde has a solo book? Have them do an 8-page. And then on top of that, some people need some work. They just need to do a little extra, make a little extra money. But some people are also, hey, this guy doesn't quite know what he's doing yet. Maybe give him one of these 8-pagers, give him some money. And it's kind of like paid training, because at the end of the day, like you're saying, this isn't a huge deal. These are feel good. Let's have some fun in the holiday stories. So if this guy's anatomy isn't quite right here, it's not the same as if someone's purchasing X-Men number 97.
Mm-hmm. Good point. All right, well, let's get into this first story here. So our first story was Not a Creature Was Stirring, and this was written by Mark Waid, Pat Olive on pencils, Brett Breeding on inks, letters by John Babcock, and colors by Joe Andriani.
Joe's tired of being called John, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
He needs to be a little more mindful in the future.
On a wintry Christmas Eve, the bustling streets of New York City were draped in a blanket of snow. Amidst the holiday cheer, Peter Parker, ever vigilant, aimed his camera lens at a rather unexpected scene. J. Jonah Jameson, of all people, was masquerading in quotes, as Santa Claus, distributing weathered toys to underprivileged children. The joy on the kids' faces didn't quite match the worn-out gifts, and Peter couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the disappointment. However, when it came to time for compensation for the photos, Jameson's stinginess hit Peter harder than the winter chill. Paid merely a bus fare for his efforts.
I don't even think that was a bus fare. That was like 75 cents.
Peter and his mischievous alter ego Spidey resolved to playfully even the score. As he trailed the cantankerous Jameson, fate intervened when Peter, trying to keep up, tumbled through the warehouse roof, landing squarely on Jameson and rendering him unconscious. Now, mind you, Peter followed Jameson to this warehouse, and as he was looking in, looking in the upper skylight, he fell through the roof. The roof collapsed. Jameson wakes up and realizes that he snagged Spider-Man's mask in the process, but Peter had cleverly concealed his identity with impromptu webbing over his own face. Now, buried under debris, both need to work together to escape. The trap duo face a daunting challenge. Peter, without the necessary leverage, required Jameson's assistance to unleash his arachnid powers and free them both. But an unforeseen twist emerged when Jameson, aware that Spider-Man's webbing would dissolve within the hour, opted to bide his time. A stubborn resolve settled over Jameson, determined to teach Spidey a lesson, even if it meant risking their lives in the bone-chilling cold. Minutes stretched agonizingly, the frigid air gnawing at their limbs. Spider-Man, his concern growing, pleaded with Jameson, trying to appeal to his sense of humanity, urging him to act so they could escape together. Yet Jameson remained resolute, steadfast in his resolve until the biting cold crept in, numbing his very toes. With the situation growing dire, Spider-Man's urgency intensified, beseeching Jameson to make a move. Finally, after a relentless standoff, Jameson relented, shifting the beam just as a news helicopter spotlight captured the scene. The following day, a humbled Jameson, mortified by his inadvertent heroism, orchestrated a unique response. He employed the children he'd met the night before, tasking them with rounding up copies of the Daily Globe for a generous fee, all to suppress the story of his uncharacteristic act of valor in saving Spider-Man. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the synopsis for Not a Creature Was Stirring. Let's start. Darry, you're a Spider-Man guy, if I remember correctly. Let's talk about it, buddy. What'd you think of the story?
I liked it very much. I'm a huge Mark Waid fan, and I thought this was a great story. It's a very simple, very good premise. It could have happened at any time, and the two characters are just so committed to it. Jonah's like, I am absolutely not going to do this. I don't care how much it damages me. And Spider-Man is just sticking with it. But at the same time, they've been doing it for so long. Spider-Man's like, at the beginning of the story, I know I shouldn't do this. I absolutely know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because forget this guy in particular. I thought it was great. Again, I would have loved this at the time. I thought it was really good. And again, Mark Waid just... he's great. I really his name is one of the ones where I'll probably always pick up what he's writing. I did want to mention one thing before we went much further though. The cover is by Mike Wieringo. That guy was a freaking legend in his own time. The way he prioritizes Spider-Man and Wolverine right at the front. He knew what you were looking for on the rack. So I just wanted to take a moment and make sure we acknowledge that.
For sure. Yeah, I was on the same page. I thought this was really a good tale to kind of pit Jonah and Peter against each other. Peter's trying to one-up him, but they both have to realize that they've got to come together and work together to at least get free. And it's a matter of overcoming. Jonah's got to get over his hatred of Spider-Man in order to try and get out of dying by exposure.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, finally makes the decision. Okay, I've got to do this. And the moment he does that, it's fantastic that the news helicopter shows up and snaps the picture of him helping him. The next day, of course, Peter's enjoying every little bit of the fact that he's shelling out $5 for each issue of the Daily Globe in order to try and suppress that. It was pretty funny. What'd you think, Dean?
It was really bad. It was
it sucked.
So just terrible. No, it's exactly the kind of thing that you would expect to read in a special like this. It's going to be, it's fun. It hits the high points. This could have been a backup in an annual. It could have been a part of backup in a Marvel Tales, or I don't mean that in a bad way. It'll fit basically any time that Spider-Man is Spider-Man, but Peter Parker Spider-Man. It was funny where he was, I should be home taking pictures of Mary Jane opening presents. So did you get her lingerie? That's the present for you, asshole. Like, what do you mean? Come on. And then J. Jonah Jameson, right? It would probably be cheaper to just buy new toys than to house store old ones.
Right, dude.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, I mean, just
filled with all these old toys that he could give out. He gives that one kid a can of pickup sticks. That was old ass toys back in 96.
Yeah, for sure. Like, isn't it just costing you more to hold on to these than it is to just get new toys? I don't know. It's the Marvel Universe, so maybe in the exchange rate, maybe these things are, maybe it costs less to have storage. I don't know. I don't read Marvel comics, learn a lot about how much the rent is. The other thing is they're supposed to be trapped, but I feel like I've seen Spider-Man more trapped than that and just like have no problem lifting this beam off. I'm like, can't you just do that with your arm? We're over here lifting cars and shit, brother.
Yeah.
Like, just gotta push it off.
They said he is stuck in Play-Doh. He has no leverage.
Just use his arm. He doesn't need leverage to use his arm.
I didn't write it. I'm just saying.
You didn't. If you had written it, it would have been top notch. Ironclad. No one can possibly question anything. It's also funny because Jameson is obviously willing to freeze to death, just showing how idiotic these despotic people get about their weird empires and when they've been impugned. But also, he has trouble when he's getting that thing off. You want some leverage. Get the guy from the Madison Square Garden concert for the Carnage concert. He can put that knife under there, pry it up. He's ready. He's got that knife. It's not just useful for stabbing, although he does that too. It's also good to just get wedged in there and just make something move.
You cut your way out. That's all you got to do.
Way out. Yeah. Fucking Play-Doh. Here, let me just slice that off.
You're done.
That's my toe. He's like, I know. I did that.
You guys ever see the episode of The Simpsons where the joke is Ron Howard is trying to sell a script about one's got to die and one's got to live? And they bring it up a couple times during the episode, and eventually he sells it at the end of the episode by saying, and one of them's a pie. I think about that a lot because when I read a story where the writer clearly started with a scene they had in their head and wanted to get there as quickly as possible, that's what this story is, right? Mark Waid was like, it's Christmas evening or whatever. It's freezing. It's New York. These two guys hate each other. They hate each other so much you think they're going to make out sometimes, and they're stuck under the debris, and they can only help one another. And who's going to be the bigger person first, right? So what does he do? He backs into it with the old toys and the cheapskate and the I'm stuck in the muckety muck. I can't live. Yeah. There's 100 different ways why this wouldn't work, right? But that's not the point. The point is who's going to be the bigger man first. And I liked it. I'll take that. For all I know, Mark Waid wrote this script as he was coming into the city that day on the train. Who knows?
It's exactly the fun kind of story you want from this. And this is the kind of thing where it's nothing earth-shattering happens, but I feel like if you're a Spider-Man fan, you wouldn't want to miss this.
It's one of the things that they get away from in modern books, where their relationship can be contentious, and that's okay. Like, every story doesn't have to end with one recent issue of Amazing Spider-Man ended with Spider-Man and Jonah having their own podcast. Like, it was stupid. It was like, no, some people they're just contentious. That's the nature of their relationship. He doesn't have to threaten to kill him every time they meet, but he's always got to mess with him. It's Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd, to quote the company across the street. And this was good because this could happen at any point in their relationship. And talk about saving money, him paying the kids $5 to bring in an issue. If I'm the editor of the Daily Globe, I'm like, I guess we're doing a second edition because everyone's sold out in Midtown. Whew. Get the presses running. Get the presses running.
That's the truth. All right, next up. The next story is Kitty Pryde in Unto Others, written by Evan Skolnick, Josh Hood on the pencils, Derek Fisher on inks, Jack Morelli on letters, and Chi Wang on colors. So in the serene setting of Deerfield, Illinois, the air tinged with the festive spirit of the holidays, Kitty Pryde returned to her hometown only to be met with a heartbreaking sight. The beloved and majestic church, a cherished beacon of the community, lay in ruins, consumed by the flames of what appeared to be a despicable hate crime. Intrigued and deeply troubled, Kitty ventured to the scene of the tragedy, only to encounter an unexpected presence amidst the charred remains. Confronting the figure amidst the rubble, she discovered a young African-American girl, Anita Foster, searching desperately for a lost locket she had left behind in the church the week before. As the two embarked on their
clever name,
Anita Foster.
Yeah, because you're about to talk about her dad and stuff. Her dad's passed away, and so she needs the locket. Does she need a foster, like a parent?
Oh, okay. I didn't even catch that, dude.
I didn't catch it until you said it out loud. It may not be on purpose.
That's crazy. Well, Anita Foster searching desperately for a lost locket she had left behind in the church the week before. As the two embarked on their quest to unearth the precious locket, they engaged in a poignant conversation about the heinous act that had befallen the church. Kitty endeavored to connect with Anita, revealing her own identity as a Jew, empathizing with the fear that often breeds such acts of intolerance and hate. Seeking to bridge the gap of understanding, Kitty delved into the story of Hanukkah, recounting the history of the Jewish people forced from their homeland, returning to find their sacred places defiled. She narrated the miraculous event where oil meant for a single day burned brightly for 8 days, a symbol of hope and divine intervention. However, as Kitty extended her sentiment of inclusivity, affirming that they were all simply people, including mutants, Anita hesitated. Uncertainty clouded her expression as she grappled with the concept of mutants' humanity, unsure of where they stood in the spectrum of being. Yet, in a moment of discovery amidst the debris, the glimmer of Anita's lost locket caught their attention, partially buried under the rubble. Overcoming her own reservations, Kitty summoned her unique ability to phase through matter, retrieving the locket with cautious reluctance. Emerging back into view, Kitty braced herself, fearing she'd frightened Anita with her extraordinary powers. But to her immense relief, as she presented the salvaged locket, the barriers dissolved, replaced by an unexpected embrace. Anita, in a gesture transcending fear and differences, hugged Kitty, dissolving any remnants of apprehension of misunderstanding. Amidst the devastation of the church and the sorrow that loomed over the community, a poignant moment of connection unfolded between two individuals from different worlds. It served as a testament to power of empathy, compassion, and the universal desire for understanding and acceptance among all people, regardless of their differences. So, that was Kitty Pryde in Unto Others. Dean, I'll switch it up. Start with you here, man. What'd you think of this one?
I thought it was good. I thought the pencils were unorthodox, but I liked them. It's one of those good stories where we have mutants involved, and so we're going to try and show this as an allegory for different ethnic and racial strife that sadly happens here on Earth. It's a touching story. It works very well. I like its dialogue pretty well. It could have come across a little more heavy-handed than it does, but I do think it works. That's part of it. Only being 8 pages kind of keeps it from getting too over the top or anything. But yeah, you kind of summed it up. It's a story about trying to universally accept people as they are, regardless of previous racism, sexism, bigotry, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, what have you. And here we are in this day and age, and sadly, we've still seen a lot of anti-Semitism. We see a lot of Islamophobia because of what's going on in the Middle East, and it's just really sad. And hopefully we get more moments like this story in real life. Yeah. Now, that having been said, isn't Kitty a member of MI6? Like some kind of secret, like British shit? So are they going to have to come snipe Anita Foster because she can't know anything? She's a secret agent. Kitty just revealed Excalibur and Captain Britain and all this secret British shit to this girl. Are they going to send the SAS in to eliminate her?
If there was an issue of any comic where Pete Wisdom showed up in Deerfield, Illinois to threaten the little girl, and the little girl ended up getting the better of him, I would buy 3 copies. I would, sight unseen. I don't care, wrote it or who drew it.
Well, later on, obviously, I think the other part of this story is it turns out Anita Foster's a mutant because Pete Wisdom shows up to Black Ops her. It turns out that she shoots laser knives out of her eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's mentioned that her brother ended up going to high school in Texas and became a football star, and then ended up in a Pizza Hut comic.
Nice.
Ended up
very nice.
In a Pizza Hut comic.
That's right. I do remember that. Yeah. Good job. Same continuity. Same continuity.
This right here. I did that.
Yeah.
All right.
He met Mr. Sinister. Good for him.
Yes, sir.
Good for him.
Sir.
I hope he got a pick. We didn't get picks as much back then. But can you imagine the middle of a superhero and supervillain fight? Like, hold on. Let me get this selfie over here with this bad guy. I don't want to make too much light of it. I think it's a good message, and I think it's well done. And I think that I do think it's funny though, because Kitty's dropped the N-word a few times in history, so it's also funny, kind of weird to see that here she is talking to a young.
Has she really?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Not out of anger or something, to make a point.
To make a point. But we wouldn't use that word now. This was 1980. It was like 84 or something. God Loves Man Kills.
This was in the original graphic novel where Marvel allowed them to swear, and it wasn't even thought to be in continuity until the X-Men movies came out.
I don't like being controversial in any way on this podcast.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a question. Do you feel an issue like these that has messages like this can find a spot in this day and age?
What are you kidding?
Yeah, why couldn't it?
Every single comic that comes out, I feel like, is nothing but this. My pull list is down to almost nothing because, yes, racism is real and it is very, very bad. Kitty Pryde is not going to solve it. Can you please go back to punching each other? I need that in my life.
I don't read many modern comic books, but I think there's always going to be room for stories in every medium where you deal with topics like racism and sexism and Islamophobia and homophobia, etc., class issues, etc. I think the thing about superhero comics, though, is at the end of the day, somehow you have to resolve something by someone punching someone or shooting them with a laser beam or using their super speed to do it. And I think that you have to be careful that you don't come across too heavy-handed. I think it works perfectly here. I don't read enough modern comics to really comment one way or another about it. I think that these messages have a place everywhere, and we're a better society and better people when we're exposed to them. I can't speak on what Darry's saying, but if it's too heavy-handed and there's too much kumbaya, then we're not doing what superheroes do. That's the trick. I think it's Kurt Busiek who was the personification of fear can fight the personification of speed, and somehow you have a meaningful outcome that you relate to. Professional wrestling doesn't work very differently. You can touch on these issues there, but there needs to be somehow this issue for the time being is physically solved. Yeah, and that can be tricky with these issues. Not impossible.
My whole thing is the X-Men are already a metaphor for racism, and it's done in a way where the people who have been othered, the groups that have been othered, are front and center. So the story is already about that. And speculative fiction was created to tell stories about what is going on in the life of the reader and the life of the creator at the time it's being written, without drawing exact, not in this case, but in other cases, sometimes out of date parallels. A good story, a good speculative fiction story, should have a timeless quality to it. It's why we still read War of the Worlds today. We wouldn't be reading it if the book was called British Imperialism is Bad, you guys. But that's what the X-Men are.
I would read that.
You would, but you're the one who at 17 was, am I going to get the Nietzsche or am I going to get the Last Avengers story, and still went for the Last Avengers story.
I did read the Nietzsche, and it was fine, but it wasn't as good as it was built up to be.
I like Nietzsche. Day in, day out, Nietzsche and Peter David, they go neck and neck. They really do. Nietzsche probably wins out because he doesn't do so many puns.
I want to say Ariel Olivetti did the art.
Ariel Olivetti did it. Yeah.
Great stuff.
I wrote a
piece. But go on with your point. It's fine. I just wanted to say I'm pretty goddamn sure I have bought that book.
I wrote a piece for the site on that book. I'm a huge fan of that title. It's probably one of the best things Peter David ever read, and it's got one of the best endings of any Avengers story. But my point here is this Kitty Pryde story bad? No, not at all. But every X-Men story, well, most of them, is fundamentally about some sort of othering, some sort of, this group is bad. Why? Well, let's cover that. And there might be a guy in a cape who tries to flip the poles or whatever. But when you have something like this that's a little bit on the mark, okay, this was a great story. It really was. But would it have been effective? Would it have been as timeless? Would it have reached as many people if it was a little bit more imaginative, less on the nose? That's the only question I have. It's not a bad story. I like the fact that Kitty goes home. I like that Kitty is very much of this place, and she goes home. She's like, I'm going to celebrate Hanukkah. Wow, this terrible, awful thing happened. Let me go investigate. All that felt really in character. There's a reason that Kitty is one of the best Marvel characters, and it was great. But it was just like, to me, every X-Men story is fundamentally about how terrible it is for some groups of people. This one just seemed a tiny teensy bit on the nose. That's all.
Again, I don't read X-Men now, although the people I know who do love it, really think highly of it. But when I hear things about it, I'm not necessarily inclined to I don't want to say I agree wholeheartedly because I don't read it. But when I hear about it, it is kind of, they used to do things like, I don't know, you would go to the Shi'ar Empire and do that shit. It didn't really have much to do with racism, or they would fight the Mandarin for a while, and it didn't really have much to do with these things. Their whole existence is an allegory for othering, whether at the time it was probably more based on African Americans, but it could be anybody. It could be anybody from Latino to just, you're just a person who doesn't feel like you fit in your class. I identified incredibly with the X-Men, despite being a straight white dude, because I did not fit in Arkansas or what have you. But I do feel like when I hear about them now, everything centers around these issues, which isn't necessarily a good or a bad thing. But I do feel like you're losing something when they don't just fight Omega Red because he's from Wolverine's past or something like that. Like when I grew up the X-Men, they did a lot of other shit besides racism and othering allegories, which again, it's not bad that they do it. I'm not trying to come across like that. But I do think that when you limit yourselves, and I don't want to sound like one of these Comicsgate people, it's too woke. I don't buy it, so I don't care. I do think you have to be careful not to limit yourself, though, so that the mythos can grow. And when you're constantly in the same garden, you're always going to eat the same food.
The story we mentioned before, God Loves, Man Kills, has got a very similar vibe to this. Kitty does confront the allegory head on, and I believe that's where she uses the N-word for good or better. I'm not here to judge that. But that story is very much on the nose. It's about mutants being othered and being hunted, in that one by a religious fundamentalist. Not that these themes don't have their place. They absolutely do. I think it makes most of the stories better. It's just...
And they're growing. There's more themes now. Like now there's transphobia, which is something that obviously it existed 25 years ago, but we didn't think about it. We were just now being like, it's okay if you're gay, I'm not. We had barely gotten there, so...
Listen, there is a reason that there are a dozen X-Men books on the stands now, and that this thing has been pretty much popular since, Giant Size X-Men #1. It's a good concept, and you can apply it to anything. Like, oh, are you different? well, we're going to tell a story about that. Oh, your difference also gives you superpower. Great. You exist in a world where there's a bunch of those people, and occasionally they time travel to a hellish future and fight giant robots. This stuff is applicable in any way you can think to imagine. And to Dean's point, it's really up to the reader to say, well, what does this speak to? How have you been othered? How are you othered in a way that we don't even have a word for? Well, congratulations, you're a mutant. It's one of the best things about it. And again, I don't think this story is bad. It just feels like it's constant now. And it's just a little bit more imagination, a little bit more distance. And I feel like the story would speak to a wider group of people as opposed to just the people who already agree with it.
When I read X-Men, or we think about X-Men, the animated series, obviously 85% of it deals with this allegory. But then there are parts of it where they fight the Juggernaut because he's fucking Xavier's brother. And I said, if you stay in the same garden all the time, you're always going to eat the same food. These things help expand the mythos. And you want to expand that sometimes. And I feel if you constantly lean into the overarching allegory, you kind of miss some of those things, for better or for worse. That's the other thing. It may be good. It could be good in some ways. You're giving more people who are trans or non-binary or Islamic or whatever, you give them a place to feel safer for them. Maybe that's better. I'm not saying it's for better or for worse, but I do think that containing yourself to that type of story can sometimes lead to missing out on some other really great moments. But I also think that you're the X-Men, that you got to do that most of the time. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing here?
Now, let me turn this around and tell you what happened here when I read this story from this 1996 comic earlier this morning. As if you guys couldn't tell, I don't get out very much. I have a few friends that I talk with. You guys are probably some of the furthest friends that I have.
Bro, you were jet setting to Columbus yesterday.
Had to pry me out of my basement. But I'm 45 years old, and did I know the story of Hanukkah until this morning? No, I didn't.
Wow, really?
Okay. All right.
Right.
All right.
So this did its job.
Hey, good. Did good. It did its job.
Right.
Yeah, that's basically the story of Hanukkah. We'll have to read the holiday special sometime where Doc Samson tells it incredibly amusingly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Emily, again, go to the website, unspokendecade.com. Emily wrote about it once, we can read it and everything, but he's talking to these kids and they're pushy and they're kids. He's like, yeah, they're like, okay, so was the big bad guy a robot? He's like, yeah, it was a robot, fine. They're like, did the armies, the Maccabees, did they have lasers? Was Wolverine there? He's like, yeah, sure, Wolverine, the Hulk, lots of guys. Like, he tells the story, but it is just outlandish. So
Yeah. And the question that I asked actually didn't come to my mind until this next story, because the next story to me felt like something that we get in with the Silver Surfer and the Star of Bethlehem, which is really interesting to me. So I'll go ahead and jump into the synopsis. And then that's when it hit me. I was like, man, I don't know if this is something that I would see on the shelves nowadays.
Oh, so I thought you were talking about the story we had just read, not this.
No, it's fine.
So you think that this couldn't be out because of religious overtones? Okay.
That is kind of what I was thinking.
All right, well, we'll talk about it after you do the synopsis. But
all right, here we go.
Yeah, we went off on a fucking tangent.
No, I love it. First off, it was great. It was a great conversation. It needed to be said. Hark the Herald. George Perez plot. Stan Lee. My goodness. Are we just not hitting it out of the... No, man.
That's wild, man. I had to read that 3 times to make sure that I had that. George Perez plot, Stan Lee script, and someone who was not George Perez drawn the thing.
Well, George Perez is writing Silver Surfer at this time.
Okay. Never mind. That makes more sense.
And I believe he's plotting and scripting the book. He's paired up Surfer and Alicia Masters. They're going out right now.
That I remember. Yeah.
It makes sense that he would plot this story.
All right. Stan Lee script, Rick Leonardi on pencils, Scott Koblish on inks, Todd Klein on letters, and Tom Smith on colors. So here we go. Hark the Herald. In the boundless expanse of the cosmos, the Silver Surfer traversed the cosmic highways, drawn by the trajectory of an erratic spacecraft hurtling toward an asteroid. Swiftly intercepting the vessel, he rescues its pilot, offering aid in exchange for some vital information. Seeking answers, the Surfer recounts a poignant earthly tale that ignited his quest. It all began during a Christmas visit to Earth when he accompanied Alicia Masters, bestowing gifts upon a school where she once walked the halls. In a touching moment, a young girl implored the surfer to place her cherished Star of Bethlehem upon the festive tree. Perplexed by the request, the surfer expressed ignorance about such a celestial beacon, dismissing the ornament as a mere piece of tin. His unwitting disregard left the girl disheartened, in tears, prompting the cosmic wanderer to embark on an interstellar odyssey in pursuit of the elusive star. At a bustling space bar, his words caught the attention of a colossal verdant space creature, inciting offense. The surfer's lack of awareness about the fabled Star of Bethlehem echoed across various alien cultures present, each with their own stories of the celestial phenomenon. Driven by a newfound quest for enlightenment, the surfer soared once more into the cosmos, this time setting his course for a meeting with a watcher. Upon arrival, an emissary bestowed upon him a disc containing narratives from diverse alien races, all recounting tales of a guiding star that had transformed their worlds, heralding peace and prosperity. Armed with newfound understanding and humility, the surfer journeyed back to the school, his heart now touched by the significance of the girl's cherished ornament. Illuminating the star upon the tree, he humbly admitted his error, acknowledging the existence and importance of her star. In a moment that transcended cosmic realms, the Silver Surfer, often perceived as an enigmatic cosmic entity, became the bearer of an extraordinary truth, affirming the belief and hope tied to the celestial symbol. Through his act of acknowledgement and reverence, he imparted a message of unity and wonder, embracing the essence of the Star of Bethlehem as a beacon of shared hope and wonder across the universe. After I read this story, the religious overtones was something that kind of made me go, I don't know if comic book companies would be willing to take a chance with that or not. I'm sure that they will. Back in 96, it was no problem. I don't know what's going on in modern comic books. All I see is the hate that's on Twitter.
I can't say again whether this book will get published now or not, but I can say that the star in and of itself isn't necessarily a Christian thing. There are Chinese religions and other Eastern beliefs that had this belief that there was a big star that you could follow to find a Messiah or to find a fortune. I believe it's also part of Islam. That's where the three kings of Orient come in, which for a long time, I thought they came from Orientar. I thought the name of the song was We Three Kings of Orientar. And I thought that Orientar was a place. And I would look, as a geography person, I would try and find map after map, but there was no Orientar. And when I was like 42, I figured this out.
That's like me. I don't know how long I thought that widget stands were an actual thing from the Pledge of Allegiance. There were widget stands around. I was like, what the hell's a widget stand?
That made my day. Hearing you just say that made my day. Thank you very much.
So, as far as religious overtones, I don't think there's anything wrong with it today. Again, I don't know how comics are, but you could do something similar to this on some Christmas variety show. It doesn't push anything so far. There's no Jesus Christ is the Son of God and he died for your sins, and if you don't believe in him, you're going to hell. There's nothing very evangelical about it. It's more just like the power of this star and the power of Christmas and the power of faith that it comes across to me more than anything. I do want to say, though, it's always fucking baffling to me when superheroes, especially one like the Silver Surfer, he's like, what do you mean this star appeared everywhere at once? All across the universe? How could this be? Brother, you were the herald of a planet eater. Brother, you fought a guy who had a glove that made him God. Okay? Like, you can't possibly believe that a bunch of people saw a star at one time. What are you talking about? You're the soaring sentinel of the spaceways, as I just made clear. Wild that you're just like, I'm baffled by this one. Bro, you've been around enough. Weird shit just happens, man. You're in cosmic land. You've talked to Adam Warlock, spoken to him. What are you talking about? You can't believe in anything. Pip the Troll has teleported you. I can't. This star is baffling me. There is a planet that is alive that kills, and all it wants to do is kill Galactus. And this is what's baffling. I can't believe they can all see this. Also true. What the fuck, man? Anyhow, but I love this story. Also, while I'm on a rant, I forgot about this. Is this the first time you've ever seen a child Silver Surfer? What is wrong with you? Why would you tell a child something like this? This kid's like 5 years old, bro. Like, he's, oh, shit, that's nothing, you idiot. You dumb little moron. Why would you think that there was anything special going on? What? Just put the star on top of the tree, brother. Just be, oh, wow, this is your special star, huh? Yeah, it gives me superpowers. Well, you still going to have them I put it on top of the tree? Oh, I will. Okay, cool. Well, I'll get it up there for you then. I ain't got no kids, all right? Okay, Silver Surfer ain't got none either, as far as I know. But I
right.
better than him, right? It wasn't. Oh, it's my special star. It's not that special, you dumb little fuck. What's wrong with you, Silver Surfer? Norrin rad my ass doesn't rad about that. Lame as hell, bro. Anyhow, but I do like that he went to find out. It's a really fun story. I also like that Stan Lee scripted this, but it really feels like one of the most un-Stan Lee things I've ever read. There's not a whole lot of weird alliteration. It's not very hyperbolic. It's not super face front, true believers. It's just a really nicely, I think George Perez did a great job pacing the plot, and Stan Lee filled in the words very nicely. Well done. And of course, Rick, Spider-Man 2099, Leonardi, always brings it. So it's a great story. I think it pushes the religious overtones just enough to where if you're offended, you wanted to be. You were, and your mileage may vary, but that's my take.
I like stories like this. I'm taking the Star of Bethlehem and actually kind of giving the science fiction spin. I'm cool with that. Yeah, exactly. I think it's great. I think it's great.
It's fun, and they do it a lot. If you read House of Mystery type things or the Charlton books, those mystery books from the 60s and 70s. This was kind of a thing that would come up again. They'd be like, and these astronauts were chasing the Star of Bethlehem or something like that in the science fiction type book. So I dig that too. I'm with you. And also this doesn't push it as far as even the last story where we just hear the story of Hanukkah. They don't go into the story of Christianity here. There's just the Star of Bethlehem. If you want to know more, you'll have to get on your dial-up AOL modem. You'll have to wait some 5 minutes. And when you get on, someone's going to pick up the phone. So then you're going to have to do it all over. You're going to have to be like, hey, who's on the phone? I'm trying to get on the internet. And then you're going to have to get back on. And then maybe you'll learn about Christianity after that.
Also true. Okay, I read it twice. There were a couple of things. First of all, until you mentioned this, I didn't even think of it as a religious story because in my mind, I know George Perez isn't, but I was like, well, Stan Lee wrote it and he's Jewish and this is a Christmas story. So everyone's just playing. That's fine. That's cool. And then when he goes through it, he gets made fun. Silver Surfer gets made fun of for not knowing the
beautiful, right?
Christian Earth holiday stories. So what does he do? He goes up into space and he asks God, like, hey, did this really happen? Or are the monkeys making this stuff up? And they're like, no, it happened, but it didn't just affect them. It affected everyone at once. And then he's like, well, that's impossible. So then he has the same feeling the characters in the story did. I loved it. I assume most of that was George Perez's idea, but I thought the whole thing was really good. It was really great. I thought it was a story about faith. More than anything else.
I agree.
And I really think that cuts to it because when you back out the preaching and the narratives and the hierarchy, religion is fundamentally, do you believe in something? Do you want to believe in something? And I think that perfectly encapsulates it here. It's one of the many reasons I liked it. The other reason was just like, it's a good cosmic Marvel story. You know?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that one alien guy had a big old ray blaster.
The one alien had his head upside down. His eyes were under his chin.
But it was cool because a lot of times the Silver Surfer stories, they get bogged down in continuity, right? What is Norrin Rad going to do this week? He's going to deal with characters he's already dealt with. He's going to deal with other stuff. He's going to fight Galactus for the 50th time. But
or it's just him feeling sorry for himself again. I read every Silver Surfer issue from his first appearance all the way until number 110 or so before I got tired of this run. It was amazing how he would deal with this, and then somebody new would come on and we just do it again. We just do it again, and we hit all the high spots, like you're saying. But then he also had to be like, but I killed billions of people, which he did, but he would get over it and then have to do it again.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely 100% right.
Got to zap Galactus and got to be like, what did I do?
It's so funny to me because...
But I love it.
The old stories, right? The old Fantastic Four stories where most of the cosmic stuff was created. When Stan Lee was working with Jack Kirby, they would constantly try to outdo themselves, right? Whether you believe it's just Kirby outdoing himself or Stan wanting to up the ante, whatever it was, the results are there, right? You get to Galactus.
We won't argue about that now.
Yeah, no, of course not. But my point is, it's always upping the stakes. It's always giving you something new because they get bored, we get bored, whatever.
Right.
And I liked in this story where it's just, no, we're going to confront this issue of a star that doesn't follow any of the rules of space and time, which Silver Surfer knows intrinsically. And then what does he do? He goes to meet the Watchers, which, spoilers, apparently, if you go to a different galaxy, the Watchers aren't necessarily bald-headed.
I meant to mention that. What a weird visual.
That's awesome. No, see, that's one of the things. I love the idea that the original Watcher was just our Watcher, was just like the solar system or the Milky Way's Watcher. And then if you go over to the Andromeda Galaxy, there's a bunch of bubbles. There, he's the Watcher. They're the Watcher.
It's the Galactus principle. Galactus appears as you imagine him.
Sure. Yeah.
I think why wouldn't this apply to the Watchers?
Yeah, I wrote it down as an emissary or I thought he was the secretary and the Watcher wasn't in.
That is
like,
Stan Lee. That is co-creator of the Watcher.
You saw
I know one Watcher. I know one. That's the only one I know. I've seen like 3 other Watchers hanging around look the same, right?
Yeah.
No, bro. You were like, oh, that must be the Watcher's secretary because he doesn't look like a human. Bro,
he looked like snot. He looked like snot. He was a bunch of bubbles.
You are comics gay. I got you. No, I'm just kidding.
We love Jesse. I love Jesse.
We're just kidding. We're just kidding about that. But yeah, you're right. It is a wild look. I read this thing like 8 times, so I don't remember missing it at all, but maybe I missed it the first time because you're right. It doesn't just look, you said snot, but to me it looked like on Mega Man, I think 4, you get in Rush and he's a submarine and you have to shoot these caviar eggs under the water. It looked like those to me. Might be Mega Man 3.
All right.
3 or 4 for sure, though. Don't I think you're not interested, Darry? Darry, I see you. I see you looking up Mega Man right now.
I have never in my life looked up Mega Man. I promise you that. That is the hardest video game I have ever played. I know when
wow.
You're not wrong. It's very difficult.
I couldn't do it. I reach a point very quickly with video games where it's, am I enjoying myself? I am not. I am going to go do something else.
This is not what I want to be doing. All right.
I'm going to go ask the Watcher about this.
This was great, though. I mean, this really is an example to me of a great type of holiday story because it gives you something that is intrinsically about a holiday that most of the people reading this thing would celebrate. And then it's got a character screwing up. You're right. Why does the Silver Surfer make a kid cry? Well, because the Silver Surfer, like, fundamentally does not know any children, and considering in his first appearance he threatened to murder everyone he met, I think he's moving in the right direction. You guys
think about this though. When a lot of times we see Silver Surfer, he's all, look at him, look at his beauty, his sleekness, beyond man. He's so wise, he's so zen, and then he's like, "Fuck you, kid. Fuck your star. You're a dumb little brat." Pretty much verbatim. There's a weird thing to script, but it's in there. Go look.
It's true. That's true. No, but I like it because again, it just feels
it makes more sense than I'm letting.
Yeah, I like it too because I don't want the character to be if Silver Surfer lands at this school and he's a Jesus figure, if he's this tortured, fallen Christian New Testament angel that's just he's radiating light and everyone around him is, oh, this is great, then that's not the character. That's a different character.
What he should have done was he should have gotten a backwards hat and like turned his surfboard into a skateboard and just done some ollies and stuff. What up, kids?
We are not living.
Kids. That's how you get it done.
We are not living in the best of all possible worlds because Silver Surfer, one of the few original Marvel characters, didn't get an awesome reboot in the 90s. There's no Thunderstrike or Scarlet Spider version of the Silver Surfer floating around. It's just he's got the one look.
Should have those big old Jinkos. Just like, what up?
Changes his name to
like 41 inches wide, man. Just like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yes. I want that. I want that in my life.
Goes by the shiny skater now. That's
shiny skater. That's the thing. He replaces him for a little bit. He's like, I don't see how I can live up to this. He's like Norrin extra rad, like extreme, like big X, right?
That's what I want. That right there. I want Norrin extra rad. Yeah. I gotta say, if you have made it this far into this podcast, this is a good one. This is worth not just read it if you find it. It's worth hunting it down. Again, I assume Perez came up with most of the ideas, but Stan scripted the thing. It feels like an old school surfer story. It is super quick and it is very good. I think it gets to the heart of the character it's portraying in the story it's trying to tell. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's an 8-page story, a 10-page story, excuse me. It is the perfect economy of storytelling. It's for most stories today where you need 6 or 10 issues to get nothing out of it. This was great. I read it 3 times. So
I think that as far as you have to track it down, if you find it anywhere for $5 or less, any one of these stories is worth it. They're all good enough.
Great,
to be,
100%.
It's a great collection, and you'll find your favorite, but none of them are hateable.
Yeah. Well, I've learned something already with the previous story. This one right here definitely spawned some good conversation, and I'm going to identify with a character here in a few. We'll talk about that here in a moment.
I know the character already. I already know.
All right, then.
You know what it is?
Hey, who is it? Tell me.
It's the Wizard of the West because he's got them Cyberforce guns.
Yes, he
there
does.
you go.
Yes, he does.
It was if there was Cyberforce Bonanza, and we combined the two. That's for you, man. That's for you.
Oh,
What would a Cyberforce Christmas special look like?
Oh my goodness. Good golly. What would that be?
First off, we got Velocity as a reindeer, right? Like right.
She is the one that's getting the presents. They got to help Santa in some way. All right. And the only way, time's running out, Velocity is on tap, and there's missiles coming at they're coming at the sleigh, but who's able to shoot them down? That's right, Stryker. He's got his pistol. He's sitting. Boom, boom, boom.
Speaking of Stryker, if you guys aren't reading Local, man, it's super good. And they just did this crossover thing. It looked like Deathmate. I think I have it around. I'll grab it.
What is the name?
Local, man. It's this guy who was, it's an image book. It's this guy who was a big hero during the Extreme era.
I think I've heard of this.
But now he's gone home and everybody hates him. He's kind of a shit, and he's changing everything. Well, they do this special, and it looks like Deathmate Gold. He's in it, and he's talking to everybody. He's like, it's him. He shows up. The cops bring him to the thing. It's like, look who's here. He's like, you don't seem very surprised. He's like, I sort of remember this happening.
Yes.
And then he winds up teaming up with, I can't remember everybody, but he teams up with Stryker and Boof from Boof and the Bruise Crew. And somebody named like Dynamo 5 or something.
Dynamo 5! You don't remember that?
And there's somebody else I can't remember, but they do crossover stuff, and it's really good. Anyhow, I don't mean to get too sidetracked, but again, Matthew Price.
You are sidetracking me for Dynamo 5. You absolutely are.
He's the one who recommended it for me, and he was spot on. It's been really good otherwise, but this is particularly fun. So when you said Stryker shows up, and he at one point somebody, big deal, you have 4 arms, and he rips their arm off and hits them with it. He goes, now I have 5. So the book is $5, and it was worth it for that panel.
Oh, it's Tim Seeley. Oh, all right. Very good. Away from me.
All right. Yeah, I'm down.
Man, I just couldn't remember. The other books don't have as much to do with that, but it's still good. And a lot of them have a flip cover where it's him teaming up with Shadowhawk or something, which there's not a story of it, but it's still cool. And it's all done in old lettering style, that stuff. Like sometimes you do get an old story, and it's Brigade and Bloodstrike and Stormwatch somehow made a baby together.
That's great.
So it's your kind of book, bro. That's the thing. Now
I am down.
The other part, it's pretty. The other part's also your kind of book, but it's also kind of sad and weird. But I love it.
All right. I'll have to check it out. All right.
So hello to our old friend Stryker.
Yes, sir. Ambush at Angel Rock. Carl the Kid Kessel writing. Pat Pardner Zurcher on pencils. Sagebrush Scott Kolbush on inks. Paul Bronco Becton on colors. And Lonesome John Costanza on letters. Here we go.
It's honestly your fault for being named John Costanza. That's why you're lonesome. You got to go by something else.
In the heart of Angel Rock Gulch, where shadows danced across the sun-baked earth, the legendary Rawhide Kid rode through the rugged terrain, his eyes fixed on the mission at hand, rescuing the kidnapped son of a railroad president. As he navigated the craggy landscape, a sense of foreboding gripped him, signaling that trouble lay just around the next bend. It wasn't long before the kid stumbled upon what appeared to be the lair of the culprits, but his hopes of a swift rescue were dashed when 3 figures emerged, silhouetted against the crimson hues of the setting sun. Maggie, Nedick, Red, Pear, and the enigmatic Wizard of the West stood before him, wielding mysterious, and formidable technology. Rawhide Kid, ever undeterred, confronted the wizard about the origins of these otherworldly weapons. The wizard, with an air of both pride and remorse, confessed of discovering a cavern teeming with inventions beyond mortal imagination. Among them were devices capable of melting steel, controlling magnetic forces, and disintegrating matter. These villains intended to safeguard their technological prowess by holding the kidnapped boy captive. As the tense standoff escalated, Rawhide Kid seized a fleeting moment and swiftly incapacitated Red and Maggie. But the wizard's wrath remained unabated, aiming his devastating weapon at the kid. A desperate struggle ensued, culminating in a near miss that freed the young captives from his bonds. Just when it seemed the kid's luck had run out, Angel Rock itself underwent a fantastical transformation. The ground quivered as an otherworldly creature emerged, clutching the wizard in its grasp. This being revealed it had observed humanity, disheartened by the misuse of the wizard's inventions for malevolent ends. However, witnessing the kid's valiant efforts sparked a glimmer of hope in the creature. Expressing its intent to depart with the wizard for analysis, the celestial entity changed its mind upon Rawhide Kid's impassioned plea. Acknowledging the need for earthly justice, the creature relented, reclaiming its stolen technology before soaring into the cosmos aboard a wondrous rocket heading toward the radiant Christmas star. Standing in awestruck wonder...
We're Silver Surfer now. Right? This guy's going right for the star, brother.
Standing in the awestruck wonder, the rescued boy whispered his belief that the celestial being was an angel. Encouraged by Rawhide Kid, Isaac, the young boy that Rawhide Kid had rescued, made a Christmas wish. A wish for a suit of armor to protect against evil. Little did they know this resilient young lad would become the progenitor of a legacy, the great-great-grandfather of future legend Tony Stark, the Iron Man. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Ambush at Angel Rock. Darry, you're going first, buddy. What do you think here, man? We're back in the Old West. What do you think?
I also was hoping Two Gun Kid were in this, and I was very upset to see it was Rawhide Kid, who I did not know actually was a real character. I thought he was made up by Zimmerman for that spoof comic that came out a couple of years after this. This comic is wild. I have no idea what it has to do with Christmas. I was not expecting...
It's on Christmas.
That's about the only thing you can say. It's on Christmas. And...
That's fine, but doesn't this feel like this was written and ready to go to the printer and it's going in the Christmas anthology, go in and make one of the characters say, wow, I can't wait for it to be Christmas the day after tomorrow, and then go back to the giant alien and all the sci-fi guns. That stuff's great. That's really good. But I'm reading this and I was like, no, this got the feeling of having been in a drawer for a couple of years. So
it is our very first appearance of Isaac Stark, by the way. Very first. So, ladies and gentlemen, get your hands on this issue for your first appearance of the great-great-grandfather.
I love the idea, by the way. I want to run this out. I love the idea that this is canon. That's somewhere along the lines that the Stark fortune changed hands because this kid got a little bit older, inherited his fortune, came back here, got whatever the alien left, and that is what Stark is. And Howard is born and Tony is born. They're just a little bit smarter than they're supposed to be because of whatever this guy was mucking around with. To actually have the origins of Iron Man and therefore most of the Avengers resources come from this random 10-page story that supposedly took place with the Wizard of the West. I hope that's canon. I really do. I want someone to do a prestige format series about that one day.
I kind of always thought that once they started alluding that Kang might be a descendant of Tony Stark, that maybe at some point, I don't think they talk about it. I thought about this before the crossing, but then after the crossing, I was like, what's really could have happened? Kang set up time beachheads, for lack of a better term, the Old West. Yep. And they're actually talking about it on the Loki series now, I want to say. My friend at work watches it. Victor Timely was a dude who was actually Kang or whatever. So he had all this shit. Two Gun Kid and Hawkeye wind up fighting him in the Old West and stuff. And I always thought, I was like, well, if he's gonna wind up being Kang, what if Kang came back and maybe not directly showed him, but planted a seed so that he would take the trail to find some of this stuff and kind of spur that on. So I'm game for this too.
But that is the one sticking point that came with me as I left this issue. Is like, holy crap, this inspired the Stark family and possibly steered this legacy for the Starks forward. But yeah, it has nothing to do with Christmas other than it's just on Christmas Day and he's making a Christmas wish.
Okay, this is very, very meta.
Ooh. All right, then.
But on some level, Christmas. Look, this is my favorite story in the thing.
Okay, all right.
Loved everything about it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, thought it was fantastic. Thought it was fun. I love the Western guys. I was disappointed it wasn't Two Gun Kid, but it was Rawhide Kid's fine. Kid Colt Outlaw, Red Wolf. I like them all. But there is a meta Christmas message here, which is the monster could have slayed every one of them or whatever because he didn't see anything in them. And instead, Rawhide Kid was able to sack me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, that's fine, but I'm still taking my gifts back until you're ready. And then he leaves. So, again, it's meta, but I think you're supposed to kind of you don't have to see it if you don't want to. It can just be, like you said, they mentioned Christmas 4 times. And that's one thing he actually says that to the monster, Rawhide Kid does, where he's like, listen, we do nice things for people on Christmas. And, of course, this poor monster, or alien, he's not really a monster, he's a good guy. All he's ever seen is bad guys because that's all whoever comes around here. So, of course, he's like, these people fucking suck. You know?
That's true.
You know? So once somebody was actually, I'm willing to do if it means you kill me, I can't let you take the Wizard of the West, who fucking rules, by the way. What a fucking cool dude. His only appearance, they should have used to begin another.
He's not used anywhere else.
No. And you can tell he's very inspired by Wild Wild West, and I love that.
Yep.
Obviously, it's before the movie, but for people who don't know, Wild Wild West was a show in the 60s. It was basically James Bond, but a cowboy guy. And so this is kind of inspired by that. He's using this tech. I thought it was great. He should use this guy again. I mean, cool as hell. So I liked every bit of it. I liked how it ended with the whole Stark reveal. I liked the meta message. I thought it was pretty cool to get that across again. Because you can't just be. It's hard to just be like, oh, here's Jesus. That's controversial to a lot. It really shouldn't be because that's theoretically Christmas. Although there's really no way that Jesus was born on December 25th because of livestock needs and customs at the time, and also it's probably just based on pagan holidays that come out of the thing. We all know that, but for Christians, this is their deal. And you can see, it's weird. You can tell the story of Hanukkah, but you can't have somebody be, bro, I'm into Jesus. And I don't say that's a good or a bad thing. I get it because and I think for a lot of people, because they don't want to talk about Jesus, I think it's more that since it's such a dominant religion here, they're scared they'll get it wrong. They're scared that they'll piss off people who believe in Jesus, not people who necessarily don't. Although we do know that a few Marvel characters are canonically Christian. Living Lightning is Catholic, for instance. So we know a few different ones, but you can't do that. But they do kind of get the story across here. It is somewhat of a Christmas story allegory to an extent. And Rawhide Kid, look at him, cool as hell. 2 guns, 3, whatever, man. He's got the freaking revolvers. Then he looks cool with the laser zappers. Marvel Western guys are great.
I did forget about the whole. I'm done. I'm not going to judge humanity off of these bad acts now. I've forgot about that part. And right. There is absolutely elements of the Christmas spirit there where you're trying to find the good in other people and good things that other people do as well. It's supposed to be what's happening on Christmas. So, which is going to be kind of a stark. I didn't mean to do that. A contrast. Yes, it's going to be a bit of a contrast to what we get in this next story because there's not a whole lot of Christmas joy going on there.
I just got to ask, Dean, do you really like Rawhide Kid?
I do. I do like Rawhide Kid.
All right.
Why do you ask?
I don't know. I don't know anything about him. So I thought it was.
Listen, Rawhide Kid predates the Fantastic Four. And I really like him on the historical level. But then I really liked when Steve Englehart tied all of this continuity together. I think it's neat. I think it's neat when the DC Universe did Crisis, the Losers and Johnny Thunder and Firehawk and Madam 44 and Jonah Hex were all trying to deal with it at the same time. I think it's neat to think that this whatever heroic streak exists in these fantastical superhero universes, apparently it goes way, way back. And so I'm not, if you ask me what's my favorite Rawhide Kid story, it's probably the John Ostrander stuff, Blaze of Glory and Apache Skies.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I really like that stuff. I like some of the 60s stuff. I would never be like, oh man, Rawhide Kid must read. But from a historical perspective and from just the love of the lore, yeah, I love these guys. I love them a lot. Two Gun Kid's my favorite, though. It's hard to top him. Make a Marvel Legends already.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, up next is a story titled Humbug, and this was produced by Tom DeFalco, Josh Hood, Andrew Papoy, Todd Klein, Joe Andriani, Tom Brevoort, Bob Harris. Here we go.
Bobby Harris, EIC.
In the heart of the Christmas season, Wolverine, known for his gruff exterior and cynical view of humanity, found little to celebrate among the festivities. To him, the virtues of mankind seemed obscured by the rampant commercialism and superficiality that engulfed the holiday. As the narrative unfolded with the jaded lens of the old knucklehead, scenes painted a contrasting picture of the other X-Men engaging in heartwarming acts. Jean and Scott gifted their son Cable a cherished ball glove, fostering a simple moment of father-son bonding through the timeless game of catch. Meanwhile, Storm and her benevolence enliven a Christmas tree vendor's business by conjuring snowfall, adding a touch of enchantment to the scene. Iceman spread joy among children, crafting a magnificent sculpture of Santa and his reindeer from shimmering ice. Amidst these wholesome gestures, the mutant bishop quietly purchased a doll for a young girl, his kind act seemingly lost in the chaos of the season. However, Wolverine, with a cynical outlook, witnessed the girl swiftly seizing the gift from Bishop's grasp, interpreting her joy as fleeting and materialistic. Yet, as fate would have it, a chance glimpse into the girl's home revealed a heartwarming sight. The young girl, in an unexpected act of selflessness, presented the doll to her younger sister, illuminating the room with radiant joy and genuine happiness. In that fleeting moment, Wolverine, notorious for his toughness and skepticism, felt a thawing of his hardened heart. Witnessing the unfiltered, unpretentious joy shared between the sisters, he realized that beneath the hustle and bustle, amidst the gift-giving and materialism, genuine acts of kindness and selflessness quietly prevailed. So there you go.
Kill the Morlock.
And then snicked, baby. So there you go. I said I could identify with somebody. I will say that I have identified with the old knucklehead here when it comes to Christmas time. It's tough sometimes. You see a lot of this. I've discussed this actually recently on a couple other podcasts. Believe it or not, I have a couple other podcasts that I'm on. Mark and I definitely got into a discussion about this last year when we were talking a comic book called Slayer. No, it was Last Christmas. I think that was the one. Is it David Posehn? Who's the comic? Or so he wrote
Brian Posehn?
Brian. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that also sounds right. That sounds a little more right.
They can both be comics. I don't fucking know. I just know Brian Posehn's the guy with the voice.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's him. Big guy. You probably see him. So
but he somehow sounds and looks like a Muppet, but also doesn't. It's really weird.
The book was violent and gory and great. Santa Claus goes through some shit in that book, and he's just upset because it's just how bad Christmas has gotten, how the spirit of giving has left everybody, and how, of course, it doesn't help that it takes place in a post-apocalyptic setting. Regardless, there were a lot of discussion points about how just shitty Christmas had gotten. And when you become a father, one of the things that you obviously want for your children to have is that Christmas and those feelings of joy that you had when you were a kid with Christmas. But then you also start to realize some of the materialistic things that really seem to define what happiness is for kids. And you don't see them actually enjoy the fact that they're spending time with their family members. And as a kid, I guess I probably wouldn't have got that too much either. But regardless, it's interesting how my views have changed over the years and how I look at Christmas and how all the stuff that's going on, how Black Friday, and we got to get everybody to the shops. And then, of course, people are getting trampled to get all these deals. And it's just some of the worst stuff that you see during the Christmas season. But with this story, I saw myself in Wolverine's shoes. And as he's walking around and he's seeing all these things that happen, it seems fleeting. It seems it's uncommon or rare, but it's out there. It does tend to warm a hardened heart. So I did like this story. This one was the one where I could kind of identify and say, okay, yeah, I've been in his shoes. Dean, I'll throw it to you first, man. What do you think of this last story?
Well, first off, I identify more with Bishop, who came back from the future just to buy this girl this doll. That's the whole real purpose of what's going on here. Just
he hands her the doll, and the M disappears from his face.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he's like, "We're free." Starts to fade away. And then in the future, he's married, has kids. I've got a lot of learning to do.
Sister's still alive. Shard is hanging out with him.
Shard. Yeah. All right. Yeah, no, it's a good story. I get what you're saying too. It's definitely speaking to that. I'm a pretty big Christmas guy, and part of it is because growing up, one of the only times we got anything. And so definitely gifts are a part of Christmas. Although around the time I was a teen or so, that's when it really became, it's going to be cool to give people stuff. And I mean it when I say I really like to give people things. I really like to find something that somebody would like that they might not necessarily get themselves. So I guess that's still somewhat wrapped up in materials, but that's my love language. And we all express it in different ways. And one of the primary ways of mine is gift giving. And Christmas is the time you get to do that. So I thought this was a nice story. I think it's always funny. Wolverine's all gruff and doesn't like Christmas. Bro, I've read the Wolverine doesn't like Christmas story 15 times, and I was gonna have you like Christmas. You're not fooling me. You're not fooling me like you fooled the folks when you went off in Cap Wolf. You're not a freaking wolf.
That's true. That's true.
I'd have been there. Anyhow, you fooled them, but you're not fooling me in regard to this. But Wolverine's a great voice for this kind of thing, and it's fun to see everybody do something super nice. Obviously, I'm a big baseball mark, and I miss my dad who died when I was in 7th grade, and we did baseball together. So obviously, for Cable to get a baseball glove from Cyclops, really nice. Jean Grey has this evil look on her. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if she loves it, hates it, or what's going on, but she has feelings about it. That I know.
There's few moments where you see Cable that emotional.
Right,
really.
Happy,
Right.
Otherwise, he's just like, the future is nowhere.
Right.
The only place we can go is somewhere. What the fuck, bro? Calm down. Shoot the big gun.
Body slide by one.
What was it? Time rip? Is that it? Or time slide by six?
Time slide.
Time slide by six. Tell me about it, Professor. I love you, Cable. For real. I love it. I wish he's one of those guys, though. Emily points this out. When you watch the old school Doctor Who, a lot of times their guns can't do anything. It is wild how Cable has the biggest gun. He will shoot something, and then Mr. Sinister will be like, "Nice try, Cable. This is my electro-proton shield. You can't get through." I'm like, God damn it, let me shoot something sometime. Other than Sumo, who he just fucking blew away in that issue.
I remember that.
He put a bullet in the round hole in his head.
Yeah.
But no, it's nice to see Cable that excited. I like, too, how Iceman is just like, Kitty Pryde's story, she's like, I don't know if I can let this girl know I'm a mutant. Iceman's like, here you go, kids. I am a goddamn mutant. Right here. Make it. Also, every one of them was nice. I love the little girl giving the doll to her sister. Very good, touching moment. You see it coming, but you're not upset about it at all. But what did Storm really do? What did Storm really do? This guy's like, man, I can't sell no Christmas trees. What if it was snowing? What if there was a bunch of snow? Maybe that will help, but it looks too late. He has reduced his prices by 90%.
I know, dude. It's the nth hour.
Right. This is Christmas Eve, 11:52 p.m., and she's all making snow a little bit. Well, where were you 3 days ago, Aurora Monroe? Probably fighting Operation Zero Tolerance or doing something important. But hey, what? You help at home first.
Yeah.
You a New Yorker or not? Go make some snow so this guy can sell more Christmas trees. But no, it's a predictable story. It is the curmudgeon it's the Scrooge story in this, and it's fun. It comes out great. I don't know if you get these if you bought it, because we read scans, because I don't know where I have this physically somewhere, but I've never actually read it. But I don't know if you get them or not, but in the other holiday specials, there were pinups, and I really missed the pinups. Like there would be a pinup of the Fantastic Four going shopping, or I have one of the Punisher stuffing a bunch of Christmas presents down a chimney. There really should have been some of those in here.
I agree.
Yeah.
Darry, what do you think?
Galactus giving the Silver Surfer a present, or Carnage giving the guy from Madison Square Garden a knife. Like a knife. Like it's Christmas time, right? Like he's not having this isn't the joking, but this is a different joke. But he's just like, here you go, man. We did this together.
This knife will come in handy. All right, Darry.
Right. You'll need this. This asshole's going to talk about it.
All right, Darry. What are you thinking, man?
I enjoyed this story. I love Logan. I love miserable, hairy, mutton-chopped, late 90s Logan. I thought that was great.
Bone Claws, I think.
Bone Claws, yeah. We are right in the middle of Bone Claws.
Right. We just talked about how on the shelf right now is the Onslaught epilogue. Not mutants, I don't think are looked at too fondly at this point at all. But anyway, go ahead.
No, they went from hated to really, really hated.
Really hated.
Yeah, it was rough at the time. But no, I thought this was a good little story. I love the scene you guys already talked about with the baseball glove because Cable is old enough to be their grandparents, but he's also their kid. Comics, everyone. And I thought it was good. In general, I'm a fan of Tom DeFalco. I think he wrote a lot of comics that I liked from this period, and this was a good little Christmas story. And yeah, I really do. I am going to remember this story as Bishop giving the little girl a doll and his M immediately disappearing. That's headcanon now. So
Right.
Thank you.
That's perfect.
They're gone.
It's done. We won, guys. We got him. We won. We're
got him.
His XSE badge morphs and changes into, he's an automotive guy now. It just says Bishop right there. He works at the factory. Oh my God.
Got this really sad life he now doesn't want to turn to. He's like twice divorced.
My God. Terrible.
Everyone's alive, but at what cost?
Oh, man. All right. Well, this has been our discussion of the Marvel Holiday Special from 1996. It was a fun journey. A lot of great conversation was had here tonight. So you guys have any final thoughts? Want to get into plugs? It's up to you. I'll throw it to you, Dean.
Like I said earlier, it's worth $5. You find it in a bin, you should pick it up. You'll have a lot of fun.
Okay. All right. Darry, anything else to add to that?
No, I agree. I think everyone should read this. I wish I had read it at the time, but I'm glad I read it now.
All right. Well, hey, let's get into plugs then. Dean Compton, tell them about the Unspoken Decade.
Well, first off, want to wish you big season's greetings. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Yule, Happy Kwanzaa. We just got done with Diwali. Happy New Year's. Whatever's going on in your life, you're celebrating this time of year. I hope you're enjoying it with your friends, family, maybe even people you like. So enjoy that if you can. Make sure that you make some memories. Make sure that you, I hope you get everything you want. I hope you give everything you want. We're at the unspokendecade.com. There's been several articles lately. Chris Armstrong wrote one. Jesse wrote one. Jesse learned to write just to do this. So go check it out. It's pretty neat. He could read before, but not write. This is a big step.
Correct.
Now, for a long time, that was a bridge too far, but he overcame it. I appreciate it. We're on Facebook. We've got 10,000 followers almost now, so thanks, everybody.
Man.
And we're like 7,000. It's a pretty fun place to come talk about 90s comics. We have a good time. My computers might be fixed now, so might even be posted more often again. Look forward to it. And that's probably will enable me to do some more Blue Sky stuff, too, as that goes forward. So,
well, hey, yeah, this will actually be airing on the 25th. That's the plan. We'll get this edited, turn around pretty quick, and it will be airing on the 25th of December. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, happy holidays. Yeah, you're most likely listening to the Source Material Comics feed right now on the W2M network or on Spotify, something like that. So we have all sorts of great shows here. This is the Unspoken Issues show where we just focus on 90s comics. There's also the Source Material Comics podcast where Mark Radulich and myself have been dropping a few episodes. We have a great discussion that's upcoming or has been aired. I can't remember where we're going to be at, where we talk Mark Russell's Not All Robots. And boy, do we get into some discussion there. Always a good talk when it comes to Mark Russell's comics. So we had a fun time talking about that. And then, of course, Evan Bevins and myself, we play Snap, Marvel Snap, the mobile game Marvel Snap. So if you're interested in hearing us talk about that, we usually drop about, 5 episodes in a week per month. And they're real short 20-minute episodes where we discuss the previous season, the upcoming season, and all sorts of fun stuff playing that game. So with that being said, happy holidays, everybody. That's Dean Compton. There's Darry Waite. I'm Jesse Starcher. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com and the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.